Alright fellas, here we are back in Pokemon Masters, and so tomorrow we're going to begin the release of Sygna Suit Emmet and Eelektross as part 2 of the Sygna Suit Train Brothers event. Of course, we already got Ingo with Chandelure, and again, here's Emmet. So, Emmet is a Field Tech Electric type sync pair, very, we've got a certain character that's taken up that slot, in the inverse, Tech Field. I'm not going to name names, it begins with a T, ends with Thunderbolt Red, okay? So, will Emmet be able to compete? No, probably not, but I think Emmet's got his own good utility that, makes him fine enough as a separate option. Anyway, he, of course, drops November 2nd, leaves November 18th. He's got Electric Unova, Battle Facility Foe, Sygna Suit, and Battle Partner as the theme skills. And looking at his stats, he's got 674 health, 166 in both defenses, 314 special attack, 336 attack. He is a physical attacking character, and 310, or where the 15 came from, speed. Of course, with different levels of investment, that can increase higher. Of course, level 150, 6-star EX, 394 attack, 213 in both defenses, 366 speed, 806 health. EX roll boosts all those stats by plus 20 besides speed, and HP is like, what, 80 or so? 60. So, again, the stats are, he's got a lot of methods for buffing his own stats from different upgrades. Of course, the first awakening of Super Awakening does increase them by 1.1 times, so over 900 health, nearly 450 attack, 250 defenses, 398 speed. He's got good stats, right? Like, with varying levels of investment, like, at minimum, 6-star EX stats are pretty solid, right? And then you still got the EX roll and the Super Awakening if you want to really give him extra stats. So, hey, not too shabby there. Looking at his moves, he's got Thunder Fang, which is a 10% paralysis and 10% flinch chance, which is increased with... the rest will be totally different. Raises chance of inflicting status conditions with the additional effects of these moves. I don't know how much that is. It might be in here. Let's hope. Actually, no. I think we would only know once the stuff actually drops. It's either 40% or probably 50% total, or it's going to be up to 30%. We'll find out, I guess. But yeah, so extra chance to paralyze and flinch with Thunder Fang. That's pretty good for just any any game mode. The paralysis is nice for gimmick check and speed management for the enemy's gauge, and the flinching, of course, for pausing enemy movements is also very, very nice. He's got Unova Solidarity, the Unova Defensive Circle, increasing ally physical and special moves next, and applying the Defensive Circle for a total of up to 20% power up and 25% damage reduction for all attack moves and damaging moves, well, defensive stats, whatever. For characters that can work with Emmet to buff that Unova Master passive, for the most part, if you're going to run him with other electrics, he's field, right? It would be like Elisa characters or N. N is pretty good after his boost for sure. Like, look here, Unova Hero. Bronze Sync 9, Double Down 5, Mighty Command 9. Yeah, pretty good buff compared to, especially with everything else he got with like Static Boost and whatever else, and Static Shock, or what he already has, Static Shock. Yeah. Emmet's boosting those characters pretty well, especially because he's also a physical attacker, so he has a little bit more synergy with like Elisa and N, and still classic Elisa benefits a lot, especially under that electric terrain, right? She's got really, really solid nuke and debuffing potential, all that junk. And even other options, if you want to run like a Unova support or something like that, obviously Champion Rosa. Champion Rosa is going to be the big one. But for good tanking, just be sure not to have their terrains overlap if you do have her EX rolled. Caitlin's a little bit aged, but still can work with her, similar with Ingo, aged, but can work, and he does, of course, have the 5 out of 5 boost now. What are his defensive stats looking like? Oh, buddy. Yeah, let's run tech, sure. Boosted, whatever. Anyway, yeah, so, Emma's got pretty good Unova partners to try and max out his circle, and even if you don't want to max out his circle, he's obviously going to be getting how much of a boost? I think 10%? 10% buffs just from himself to the whole team. Pretty good, honestly. That really is. He's going to be getting a 10% damage boost to the whole team, so any other electric types, like, again, Thunderbolt Red, Ash, I guess we'll just look at electric types instead of actually trying to stay in, like, Sygna Suit Pierce, right? All those characters. if you're, again, other electric types you want to run him with to get enhanced under his electric terrain, they're all benefiting from his circle in some way. Of course, stacking with Unova just makes it a little bit more effective, but it's not as if it's like necessary. Anyway, Buddy move, Descending Lightning, Wild Charge, a 2-gauge move, 160 minimum power, targets one opponent, 100% accuracy, all that junk. Activated whenever there's an enemy with a status condition, flinch, confusion, or trap on the enemy field of play. Deactivated when there is no longer any Pokemon affected. It lowers enemy defense by 2 when paralyzed, special defense by 2 when burned, speed by 2 when flinching, restores ally HP when the enemy's poisoned, applies free moves next when the target's confused, and increases physical moves next when the enemy is trapped, which he can apply via this passive here. We'll go into that in a bit. So, this works, if you watch the Ingo video, or you have Ingo or whatever, this works similar to Ingo, except it's more catered towards Emmet. Ingo's a special attacker. His Burn and Confusion gives him special defense debuffs and special moves next. Emmet applies Paralysis and Trap, and he gets the defense debuffs and the physical moves next. Pretty sure that's the same, fairly similar as Ingo's passive, but I think they are a little bit swapped around here. Yeah, because obviously Emmet can confuse, so the confusion is here for the free moves next instead. But yeah, either way, point being, this is where they diverge in how they synergize, because obviously you can't have the enemy be burned and paralyzed at the same time, so you can't get both of their defensive debuffs. You can get both of their physical and special moves next buffs, because obviously you can have multiple status changes at once on the enemy, which is thankful, right? So you don't have to worry too much about that, but of course those defensive debuffs could hurt one of the character's damage outputs depending on which one you intend to forego. Of course, some Buddy move will still be activated at the very least. And of course, you could also try and mix and match with having multiple enemies and try and paralyze one, burn the other, and play around that as well. Not, honestly, the worst idea I've ever heard. It's not horrible, so... Buddy moves, a little bit of diversity, especially when working together, but obviously, if you're going to be using Emmet on his own optimal setup, because Ingo's not his optimal partner for the first time, pretty much, never is, you're going to be obviously running him with other electric types again. Anyone here, for the most part, at least and have pretty major buffs for him with him as well. Or, of course, you could run him with another circle setter. Like, I don't think we have a physical unit of a circle. We've got Nate, right? Champion Nate. You can maybe run with him. Go for it. I'm not going to say they're the best partners. I'm pretty sure Nate still prefers Bianca, especially because, for the master passive, right? But still, right? You can make some pretty decent setups with a lot of other characters that are not Ingo, whether it be other physical attackers or other electric types. And then he's got himself the trainer move, Aim for Victory, applying critical hit next to an ally, super effective next to an ally, increases sting moves next by 5 for an ally, and raises an ally's ground rebuff by 2. Of course, Eelektross has Levitate. That's why he's got the ground rebuff. This is how they're incorporating its, quote-unquote lack of a weakness. Fair enough. And of course, this is selectable again, as stated, so you can give him the buffs if you want to, but of course you can also give it to an ally. So if you want to maybe actually run him with Thunderbolt Red, and you've only got like Emmet at 1 out of 5, or for whatever reason, you could opt to give Red, the character with the better nuke from Cakewalk, the Innate, and Haymaker, and all that stuff. You can actually give him the sync move up next, so his nuke is like completely maximized and all of that. Or, of course, you can still give it to him anyway and actually, give him some multipliers, because he's a field sync pair and does not have any sync nuke effect. He is field tech, though, so at the very least he is getting some power from it, which is something. And then he's got Max Lightning here, turning the field of play into electric terrain on his max move for some good power, and again, the electric terrain, so he does have 2 instances of being able to set it with the field DX roll and the max move here. Of course, the max move not extended, sadly. Anyway, passive skills, Outbound, Train Announcement. Applying free moves next to all allies when the user's max move targeting an opponent that is affected by a status condition is successful. Increases his physical moves next by 2 when his max move targeting an opponent that is flinched, confused, or trapped is successful. So, he's giving himself some buffs when attacking enemies with the max move, and they are affected by the status changes that they want to be affected by anyway, so he can maintain the activation and effects of his Buddy move. Pretty simple, honestly. And then again, rest will be totally different. Raises chance of inflicting status conditions with additional effects and moves, and leaves target trapped when the attack move against it is successful. So, this is how he gets his trap. He can paralyze, flinch, and trap. Don't know how high of a flinch chance or paralysis chance it is. That will depend upon when we actually get it in the game. Because again, I do not think it's here. I've already looked, but I may as well look again. Yep. Oh well. That's fine. I'm going to assume it's probably around a 50% chance. That makes the most sense. And then he's got honing hit 9, raising his attack by 2, and crit by 1 when his attack move is successful. When his move is successful, not his attack move. Doesn't have to be. And of course, similar to Ingo, where if he can max out his stats just under 3 turns, or just in 3 turns, pretty efficient. And he doesn't have any sync acceleration. You can run him with sync accelerating characters if you wanted to, so you don't have to worry too much about lacking full self-sufficiency or stat buffs by the time you get to his sync move. Pretty good, honestly. And that's Emmet at 1 out of 5. I mean, the grid, of course, if we go back to Emmet's grid, I don't think it's got really anything. Yeah, headstrong, big whoop. I don't think it's really crazy. It's definitely not crazy, right? I mean, it's a pretty solid damaging move. The circle's nice support. The defensive debuffs are nice. His own enhancement for himself is pretty good. One big thing that makes him very different from Ingo, other than a lot of things, is the fact that Ingo gives... for one, himself, special moves next when his attack move is successful, but also all allies. Whereas Emmet instead has his own passive here to increase his chances of additional effects and leaving the enemy trapped. Tell me which one of those is better, right? I mean, Ingo's directly enhancing his damage, Emmet is making himself easier to set up. And Ingo never really struggled with that to begin with. I'm not saying Ingo's like better, but at least in that department, he is, honestly. Just not going to sugarcoat it. So Emmet's damage is going to take a pretty big hit from that. I don't think his damage is going to be that impressive overall because he doesn't have any multipliers. He's only got, the physical moves next buffs. The circle buffs are good, obviously, but pretty much any character can benefit similarly from that. And of course, with how competitive electric type is, as a type, you're going to be facing some pretty stiff competition. But also, considering how powerful electric type is, you've also got pretty damn strong partners like Champion Blue to actually enhance Emmet. But again, it's a give and take there. If you want to make Emmet stronger, you got the good partners, but is it really valuable to even pull Emmet if there's already so many good options? It's depending on really if you like the character and if that's really worth it to you. But of course, Emmet's going to get better with the grid, so let's not knock him out entirely here. At 2 out of 5, we get interference immunity, shock recovery. Holy crap, this grid is fat. Circle move gauge up, terrain move on ally, sync move up. Sync move up next effect. Sync move up next. That's what it is. 2, whatever. Thunderfang aggravation 3. Damn. Ground guard. I guess trim with NPR, and that's the big ones there. Interference immunity, circle status immunity, these are pretty similar here. You get the immunity status conditions and immunity to status changes. Pretty basic stuff. Shock recovery for a little bit of healing, pretty solid, obviously, especially combined with flinching, so you can actually get multiple procs of this pretty well. Trying to move NPR, 30% chance for that. That gives you more sync move up next, the super effective next, the critical hit next, and of course the ground rebuff if you want up to +3 of that. What legendary arena really gets harmed by that the most? Well, not even legendary arena, obviously Nita, right? That she gets you get the damage reduction against her, you get the damage reduction against Terrakion, all of those. Obviously weak to ground, so do consider you're still getting that extra damage taken from being weak, so it's more like a 10% damage reduction passive than a 60% damage reduction passive. But yeah, still good. And of course, with the 2 out of 5, you get the sync move up next here. If it's, instead of +5, you get +7. Still does not make Emmet's nuke really good. That's another one bad thing about him at 1 out of 5. His nuke is god-awful. He doesn't have one, basically. Even with +5 sync move up next, that's still only a 50% multiplier. And with +7, it's similarly not great. But still, it helps for one an ally, and it'll help once you actually get him to higher move levels. Which, here he also does have Thunderfang aggravation 3. That is a extra roll chance for Thunderfang to flinch. Basically extra 30%, so 40% chance to make the enemy flinch when using Thunderfang, plus whatever the chance is here. I don't know I guess maybe this will increase it to 40%, honestly, just because, this is status conditions, not status changes. Okay, so extra chance of leaving the enemy paralyzed. Got it. So, 40% raw chance to flinch. Fine. 40%, not that great. But, hey, it can save runs for sure. It's good. If you want to play around with RNG, have fun with that, and you can do it if you really need to. Other than that, I mean, I don't think his 2 out of 5 is not really that great again. It's just more Gauntlet stuff. All these 2 out of 5 grits for the past, like, year and a half, 2 years, however long, have just been basically catered towards Gauntlet stuff and very minor amounts of stuff that can help out other modes and whatnot. So, I mean, yeah, I'm not really too focused on how much this is going to impact him anywhere besides really the Legendary Gauntlet. And anyway, moving on to an extra level, we do have 3 out of 5 here. Hit paralyzed opponent, attack down 2, debuffing enemy attack. Just more Gauntlet utility. I don't think he has any multipliers relating to this. Just helps out the team not taking as much damage. Sync move power-up nodes here. Electric Terrain Extension 3. He does need this. If you're not, well, granted, you're probably going to run him with another Electric Terrain setter anyway, but if you're not, then this 30% buff is nice. That does help the max move, and that does, of course, extend the sync move amount of field timing even more. That's going to be pretty helpful considering he's going to be using a buddy move every single time. Him having that does help a lot, so we are glad to see that 30% extension, especially with only 2 instances of Electric Terrain. He does have Power Induction 5 at 50% multiplier. This does make his damage look a lot more impressive. It's not, again, absurd or crazy, anything like that, but it does help. So that 50% multiplier is very, very appreciated for him. He does get Haymaker, so he does have an actual Sync Nuke, as well as Trap and Sync 9. So this does give him a respectable nuke. 190% isn't crazy for modern tech standards, but combine that with the Sync move up next, +5 or +7, depending on what you pick up. Realistically, probably this. I mean, it's only just a little bit more energy. You really would appreciate that extra multiplier for having the 20% extra Sync move up next. Picking that up will be good for him, giving him an extra 70% buff on top of the 190%. Again, that makes his nuke pretty strong. It's not better than Red's. I would highly doubt it anyway, at least at this level of investment, but it is strong and is effective. So if you do want to use him as his own standalone nuker, you can. And then other than that, he does get maximum hit, team apply paralysis 9. If you do want to do AoE paralysis and not have to worry about hitting multiple enemies, here you go. This is the note for you, but it's for only the max move. So just be wary of that. Be wary of when you're using the max move and making sure you don't use it too early or too late or whatever else. Don't waste the tile, basically. Max lightning power up, then head start 1 for a little bit of sync acceleration, and not really much to go off of here. A little bit of Ingo synergy since Ingo is sprint, and I mean there's some other a lot of electric types can do some sync acceleration, like classic Lisa with her sprint EX roll and trainer move and all of that. I think Ash has a little bit of sync acceleration on his trainer move. Thunderbolt Red's got -3 on the max move. Chase obviously as a support. Decent few characters have a little bit of sync acceleration built into them, so Emmet can kind of play off of that a little bit, I guess. I'm not gonna say it's amazing, but hey, you can do it if you really want to. So yeah, nice energy. Good luck picking up. How I said this is a good node. Yeah, you're not picking it up though. So cope. Oh boy, definitely not picking up that sync node either. So yeah, especially in terms of electric nukes, Emmet's not the best. He's not going to be the best, but his sync nuke's more valuable for the electric terrain than it is for actually doing damage, though the damage is definitely something that makes it worth doing to begin with, because if it was lower than this, it would really be like just don't run Emmet at all. But at least Emmet still has actual strength. That's good. Overall, 3 out of 5 good. It gives him his actual nuke. It gives him some extra buffs in his damage with power induction, the electric turn extension, the flinch chance, the attack debuffs. Overall, pretty good for a variety of game modes. Gauntlet loves the flinching, it loves the attack debuffs, everything, literally everything, loves the extra damage output that Emmet has. So, it's very much appreciated, obviously, the level 3 out of 5 investment. 4 out of 5, he does get ally set circle, team moves up next. When an ally sets a circle or Emmet sets a circle, so the fact that it doesn't have to be him obviously means that they're basically screaming, hey, run him with other circle characters, Again, Champion Nate, you could run with Champion Bianca, those just overlap of the same circle, so it's not as effective. Or you could run him like Chase. Chase is a special circle, so it doesn't benefit Emmet, but if you are, depending on like what the setup is, like maybe Chase and Ash with Emmet as a middleman, again, Red would be better, right? Don't need to say that, but just under the assumption you may want to run something like that, then the mixed moves up next buffs could benefit them, and it could benefit, of course, Emmet himself. Granted, Ash probably not the best example considering he's most people would have red as simultaneously, but, you know, maybe Pierce or Sygna Suit How or Nimona even in that spot. You know, similar benefits. And then he also gets Trainer Sync Redemption. You want usage of the trainer move for the sync move up next, and the crit next, and super effective next, and all that. And if you want extra usage of the circle, which realistically you probably do, then this is going to be a good tile to pick up. Honestly, it's the big problem with Emmet is that where a lot of his positioning is in grid tiles and stuff. That's really his biggest issue at this point. He's got so much good stuff that you kind of want to pick up, but it ain't going to happen. 5 out of 5, sync move, max move, physical moves on physical boost 2, 9, whatever. Plus 2 physical moves next after using the sync move or max move. That does give him some pretty decent power after using the sync move or max move, you know, every cycle. Well, the sync move every cycle and the max move whenever you use it. But, of course, you don't have the energy to pick that up. That ain't going to happen. And it's not really too worth it anyway over pretty much anything else. Univus Circle defensive team moves up to 20% buff to ally damage on the circle being activated to the ally field to play. Doesn't Ingo have a similar tile to this for like attacking burned or flinching it or what? Yeah, status condition team moves up. So yeah, every character for the most part is pretty much coming with one of these supportive passives that buffs the team whenever a certain effect is activated. In this case, it's just kind of double dipping in buffs, an extra 20% buff to the whole team when the circle is activated on top of the effects that the circle already gives out. Again, you're double dipping. It's like Sygna Suit Lear, but miniature. It's still a good buff for sure. It's just you're probably still not picking it up because of a lack of energy. But if you do want to have Emmet take a more supportive role instead of like actually utilizing his sync move damage or whatever, I could see some legitimately solid usage in picking stuff up like that. Like maybe picking this up, pick up the extra damage here, the electric train extension, or something like that. I mean, I could see legitimate value in it. Granted, I don't know why you would want the electric train extension because, well, depends on what team you're running, I guess. Maybe if you want to legitimately actually run him with Thunderbolt Red, but you don't want to ever nuke with him and nuke with Red, the electric train extension here is providing quite a bit more usage because Emmet doesn't have to actually nuke, and he still is helping out the team with maintaining electric terrain activation, and of course powering up the team and applying the circle buffs, all that. So he's maintaining a good supportive role. He can do that if you really actually want him to. It's not a bad play. Other than that, that's pretty much it for a 5 out of 5 Emmet. Where's his sweet spot? That's a good question. It really depends on what you want him to do. If you want him to be supportive, like 4 out of 5 and 5 out of 5 are his better areas. That's just true. If you want him to be like the sole focused character in terms of like damage or damage output or doing the most things on the team, 3 out of 5 is fine. I mean, he gets the full nuke, he gets the damage stuff, he gets all of that. He'll be fine on his own there. Not on his own, but obviously he'll be fine for that role at 3 out of 5. Again, if you want that more supportive ability where he's not taking up the main like nuking role or whatever, like again, you could hand that role off to whoever else, like Sygna Suit Pierce, Thunderbolt Red, whatever other good electric, like Sygna Suit How, whoever, you want to hand that off to someone else, then going the more supportive route. 4 out of 5 and 5 out of 5 has better tiles, such as the ally sets, circle, passives here, and the Univers Circle team moves up and Trainer Sync Redemption for extra circle usages, and sync move up next to power up your nuking ally. That's how it's functioning. With Super Awakening level 1, he gets a 1.1 times stat buff here. Again, we've already looked at these, but again, if you do want to look at it again, over almost 450 attack, over 900 health, over 250 defenses, 398 speed. Good stuff, good stats all around. 2 out of 5, he gets what? The Sync Nuke buff? It's from 450 to 487. Big whoop, who cares? It's not that big of a buff, really. It's fine, though. It's fine. 3 out of 5, he gets the power up on his moves, going from 192 power to 224. Makes it pretty strong. Like, this is where the moves really start getting strong. It's not as, like, effective as Ingo's, where Ingo's got the different buffs because he is a sprint instead of a field. Like, see Ingo here at 5 out of 5. His bite, okay, sorry. You got to double this because it's hex, right? 192, effectively. Put him to 4 out of 5, 128, double that, 256. I mean, pretty good, man. Pretty strong move. Good lord. So, he's obviously not having the same amount of damage, but still really good. 224 power is nearly Hyper Beam levels. Which now I actually want to sidetrack here. Give me 1 minute. I want to actually... Goddamn. Okay. Anyway, moving on. to 4 to 5 here, where he now gets a 600, 600 power Sync Nuke. That's obviously going to be at 600 power. Even Thunderbolt Red can't reach those levels. Why am I stop filtering by dragging me? That's stupid. Where's Thunderbolt Red? There he is. So like obviously Thunderbolt Red under his like max nuking potential or whatever, even like 5 out of 5, 6-star EX, EX roll, all that stuff. Only 410 power, which is still good. Duh. But now Emmet can reach nearly 200 over that, and still with his own strong nuke. So it does of course give Emmet a lot of extra powers for actually sync nuking, and that's obviously appreciated. And then 5 out of 5, we unlock the passive here. First trainer move, sync countdown down, sync countdown down. Okay. Reducing sync countdown by 2 the first time its trainer's move is successful. Or trainer uses a move each battle, circle, or the trainer move, whichever you want to use. You get sync countdown. Combine that with head start 1, and that's -3. That goes through a whole turn. That's pretty good. Now Emmet's becoming a sprint. And of course, you can use this whenever you want. Before sync move, after sync move. And it gives you some good sync acceleration. The unit of a circle, team sync moves up 3. I'm pretty much just really supporting that he's meant to be like a supportive role character, clearly, because he's super effective at that role. 30% extra power to the whole team sync moves. Have we even gotten that point other than circle characters? Jeez, 30% is pretty damn strong. That's helping out a lot of allies. And of course, it's helping himself out as well. It's a 30% multiplier for himself as well. And again, 30% for the whole team. So those other allies that have good nukes, or you want to use over his, if he's going to be taking up the supportive role, are going to be enhanced even further. And especially if you're running Champion Blue as the support for the team, where they get an extra power up here. So stacking sync move power ups here and like electric rebuff and all that, you're going to see some pretty damn strong power out of pretty much any other electric type damage nuking character in the game, whether it be like Sygna Suit How or even striker nukes like Sygna Suit Pierce or even Elisa for like a free to play standard. Gonna be hitting really hard on their sync moves from these characters because of all these buffs. And then you have a circle extension. 30% extension, very, very appreciated, definitely good. You don't have to keep trying to set up the circle every pretty much 3 turns and maintain activation, especially without NPR. Your only method of NPR is the Sync Redemption, so 3 instances of it, having 30% extension so you can spread those out even more is obviously good. So, pretty good. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10 tiles, I guess. God. 10 out of 10 buffs. Sure, man. Either way, yeah, it's good. It helps out his supportive functionality. The more I look at him, the more I think he's a supportive type of character. He doesn't have like the supportive stats or anything, or support EX or whatever, which would really just just hammer it in. But I mean, he really is kind of built that way. Like, he can do good damage and he can do a good nuke. But if you want to switch the roll up, by just changing around the grid a little bit, it does pretty well. And even if you don't want to do that, if you do have the buffs unlocked here, you've still got, the sync nuke activated. He's still going to be doing good sync damage, and he's going to be enhancing team sync damage and applying that extra circle extension for himself and for the team, so he's still pretty much maintaining a little bit of support, even if you don't try and actively build for it. So, overall, Emmet, good, damage dealing / nuking character that can turn into a supportive role character if you really want to, and obviously stack those same type of enhancements with someone like Champion Blue or like Chase or whatever, to empower other characters like Thunderbolt Red, Sygna Suit How, N, Elisa, Sygna Suit Pierce, Ash. All these big electric type attackers, or even the small electric type attackers, will be really appreciating the buffs that it can provide, especially not even like Circle or his passes or whatever. He also is debuffing enemy defenses. That's a pretty big one too, and applying electric terrain and all that. He's obviously providing those enhancements and just free of charge as an additional onto what else, everything else that he can already do. So overall, good character. Very, very, very solid kit. I do think that it's nice that they made him at least a little bit different from like Thunderbolt Red, or like enough different from Thunderbolt Red to where he's got his own separate sense of use, instead of just being in pretty much inferior version all around. Even though, I mean, he probably is gonna be just underused as opposed to Thunderbolt Red, just because of how crazy that character is as is. But hey, whatever, it's fine. I think Emmet's carved out his own niche pretty well. Most characters tend to, so we appreciate it. Anyway, yeah, I'll be summoning for not Ingo. Already did. Summoning for Emmet tomorrow, whenever that is. I don't know. I'll see when I'm not lazy. And yeah, I don't really have much else to say. I'll see y'all later. Hope y'all enjoyed. Good luck on your summons for Sygna, Emmet, and Eelektross. Good luck on skipping. Let me know who you're going to be going for throughout the month, or if you're going to be skipping the entire month, or whatever it is. And yeah, I'll see y'all later. Peace.